What is up, guys? We finally have it. We have the update show for 8.5, which includes a first look at Persephone's rework in action. Now, not too long ago, I made a video reacting and analyzing and giving my first thoughts on the rework that she was getting, but we had no gameplay, no numbers to match it up, and nothing to actually visualize and conceptualize it with. Looking at the footage nowadays from what they showed off, it looks like it was a little overstated. It didn't really convey well on paper because it definitely didn't look that good. But I feel a little bit better about it, but only for certain reasons. I don't fully think it was the most successful rework, but here we're just going to run through each of her abilities and my overall thoughts now that we can actually see her in action. So, we'll start with her passive, and it's actually just as bad as I thought it would be. It's actually somewhat even worse. So what they've done with the passive is instead of dying and coming back to life for 8 seconds and being able to do your whole thing, do your damage at a reduced rate and moving slower, you come back. There's nothing on the map that you could see besides the actual physical map itself. You can't see objectives, camps, players. But for the entirety of you being dead for your death timer, you can place individual skulls. Again, I really don't see any sort of reason why this is useful. Like, the plants are obviously a good part of the kit, and really, like, you'd want to have plants in a specific area if you're gonna fight somewhere, but it's not that important where I'm, really gonna be crying about it if I don't have plants before we start fighting. And especially with how the new limit of how our skulls work and how many you can place at a time, I don't really see any use to the passive. Still bad, really don't like it. I think they just need to abandon this whole revival sort of mechanic with it because it is not very good. So, the one, I think it really just became easier to hit and became single target after looking at it. You can't really flick it like you did anymore. There's no like, I launched it and now I can like turn around and still have it move forward. Instead, it more follows you until it's actually fired. And again, I'm not too pressed about this sort of change. I don't like how it was changed from being AoE with that little sort of rectangle shape and now it's just single target. And I still think the problem of you can get poked at long ranges with it is still a thing, so I don't see how any of this really alleviates much of that issue. But what I don't really think it's the worst change. I think I could live with that. But now we have what you're seeing right now, which is the new 2. So you place down this little circle that does damage in that little area, and then shoots out these 3 little skulls at the in a triangle shape. And then that's how her new 2 works of with the flowers. You send them out in the direction that you auto attack or you flourish from. And it's like you're sending out Nuwa fog, I guess is the best way to explain it. You shoot it out and it does damage if you're in the area, and it goes through walls. And I guess the only way I could really sum up this change and how I think is that I think it made her easier, yes, but I also think it also took off a lot of her top end potential. Because the delay on the actual explosion seems to be about the time it takes for Apua to shoot off his detonate. So it's not too bad. I don't think it's the best thing. Well, I definitely don't think it's bad. I think it's easier to hit, and the same thing with the flowers. I think it's easier to hit, and I do like how it has more control rather than the old version of the flowers because the old ones, it was really just based off how bad is the other player at fighting Persephone. So overall, for how I play and the level that I play at, I don't like the change, but for newer players, I think this is beneficial to be fair. And then at 3, not really much of a change. It just does damage now to compensate, I guess, for the fact that you can't detonate things under you for a stage 2 plant, which is pretty cool. It seems like it does a decent amount of damage, and it's just there to really compensate. And then her ult, again, is a little bit overstated on how they changed it, but instead, like if you're moving towards the center from the outside, you don't have a reduced movement penalty. Again, which isn't that bad. I don't think her ult is necessarily the most strongest thing anymore. I think in its current form right now, I think it's actually relatively balanced. So, in my overall final thoughts in comparison to what I thought she was going to be way worse just based off of how it read. But Seeing it now, I think it achieved what it needed to do in some ways, when in some ways I don't think it did. Like as a high level Persephone main, I feel like that goal of keeping her strong at higher levels of play isn't there anymore. Like my hot take for this whole entire change and rework is that she will actually be better at lower levels now, and then she will actually fall off as you go higher into the rankings. I feel like with her new kit, I feel like there's just a lot less nuance and complexity that is what makes her kit good now. Because it's not like her kit's like on hers where it's very basic, but that's where it's strong, is because it's so simple but really effective. I feel like a lot of her strength lies in that complexity that only high level players can pull off. So, if they were solely going for the fact of making this god easier at lower levels, I think they did good. But like I said, I feel like her skill ceiling has greatly went down. I really don't see much value in picking her at higher levels now. So, as a high level Persephone main, I really don't like the change, but if you're someone who doesn't like Persephone or wants to play her, I think it's definitely easier to play. So overall, in its entirety, I'm not very happy with it. I really don't think I'll continue to play her, to be quite fair, but I still haven't gotten to be able to physically play her. But overall, to summarize it, I don't think her high end potential is gone and stayed the same. I think it's actually gone down quite significantly, and she's become a much more generic mage. Like, she's not Discordia levels of generic, but she's way more simple to play and to just hop in and then figure out how to play her as. I don't think at high level she's going to be valued very high. And comparing to the last video, I don't think she's going to be B tier or nothing. I think she'll be average. I think painfully average, to be fair. And she'll be actually better the lower you get, and then compared to she gets better the higher you go up into the rankings. So that's how I feel. We still have about 2-3 weeks. I think 3 weeks almost until she's actually out physically, and then we'll be able to see how she performs on the live client, and then I'll be able to give the final verdict. But after reviewing everything, not exactly the rework I wanted, not exactly hopeful. I don't think I'll continue to be a Persephone main, but it was successful in some ways. Well, boys, hopefully, when we come back and we're able to finally play her on the live client, it'll be better than expected. But you know what? I'm gonna grind out some Persephone gameplay for the boys. I just got some going up today, so we'll see you boys next time. We got some Persephone coming out.